On the 18th of May, 2025, a beautiful girl was born. Her name is Lucie, and her story had just begun. She was Grace's newest daughter, but not her first. Mum Grace had many babies before: Luca, Luna, Lucian, Lucius, and now Lucie. But two of them didn't stay. Luna and Lucius went missing, a void that cannot be filled. When Lucie arrived, Grace held her a little tighter. Perhaps she had learnt that the forest does not promise survival. When Lucie was young, she carried a rich, dark brown coat, an impeccable contrast to her pale cherubic face. She was a striking infant whose fur was sleek and neat. Surely Mum had it meticulously cleaned and groomed. Lucie has clear, prominent eyes. Pressing against the only heartbeat she ever knew, she was content and utterly at peace. Three generations of females gathered together in the dappled sunlight: grandmother, mother, daughter. Lucie sits on top of Mum's back, her small body perched securely on Grace's warm fur. Sarah, Lucie's grandmother, sits down beside them. Her expertise is undoubted. She has tended to her children and grandchildren for countless seasons. Her fingers wove smoothly across her daughter's thick coat, unhurried. The resemblance in Sarah's family is uncanny. Looking at Grace, Jerry, Gary, and Mia is like seeing the same face staring back at you. The same elegant fur, the same set of delicate eyes, the same facial structure that marks them unmistakably as Sarah's children. There's a lot of drama in Sarah's household, and they are a joy to watch. The alliances between sisters are not uniform. Gemini and Mia are closer, less guarded. Grace, on the other hand, is the highest-ranking daughter in the family, making her the fiercest and the most assertive. Take, for example, the events of 2024. Aunt Grace held Bethany hostage as her son Lucian was asking for her help while he was bullying his cousin. It felt like Grace was more patient and more willing to yield to Lucie. She had been firm with her previous babies. A mother's body has limits, and when she felt uncomfortable with the sharp sensation, she would refuse and push them away. Perhaps softened by the loss she endured last year. Mum allowed Lucie to get a few bites of her corn. She climbed onto a tree, a bold move for a young girl still finding her confidence. But she wasn't ready for an unfamiliar world above the ground. She let out soft coos, calling for Mum. The courage she had mustered to climb up this tree slowly faded. Her cousins came to her aid. But nobody could replace the comfort and love Mum unconditionally provides. Grace was enforcing the social rules. Sissy sensed her child's distress, and her maternal instinct overrode the usual submission to rank. Those days, I was always tending to Olivia. My focus was on her fight for life, so I could not capture as many videos of baby Lucie as I would have wished. Mothers gather around during this time of the year, bonding and socializing. They exchange soft grunts and watch over their young. A community bound by motherhood. Lucie is an energetic kid. No adventure could ever fully sate her curiosity and friskiness. Lucie isn't shy to grab Mum's mango. She targets it without hesitation as her small hands reach out with the boldness of a child who has not yet learned the food etiquette that also applies to mother and daughter.
佢哋係咪唔係好想要啊？呢招
係啊，想要啊梗係。
哇！阿叔叔仔為咗靚媽，唔係為咗阿笑啊，同靚媽哇交鋒啊，簡直頭先。
靚媽點啊？俾佢食。
你媽有冇食過啊？走咗啦，跟住。
Lucie climbed onto the guardrail on her own.
兔仔。
She felt a hint of hesitation as she realized that she was too far away from Mum. So she let out a frightened scream and jumped onto Mum. But Yulia was in the wrong place at the wrong time. She had done nothing to deserve Grace's anger, but had to bear the cost. At the time, Olivia's injury was stabilizing, the crisis had passed, and I could finally slow down for a bit. All observations and comments in this video are purely speculative. A full physical examination and comprehensive blood work would be required to ascertain Lucie's condition. Lucie's hair was beginning to lose its density. Her hair was also replaced by a paler, washed-out hue, a stark contrast to her once polished, dark brown coat that caught the sunlight effortlessly. The change was gradual, and this was the prelude to what was to come. Change is imminent, but little Lucie doesn't know it yet. Sarah's family is a close-knit bunch that sticks together through thick and thin. A floater is being chased off by Boss's troop. Alopecia universalis refers to the complete loss of hair across the entire body. It is a condition that has been documented in rhesus macaques. A published case report describes a female rhesus monkey that had suffered from alopecia since childhood, diagnosed as a T-cell-mediated autoimmune disease resembling alopecia areata universalis in humans. Hair loss in rhesus macaques is a complicated phenomenon with a wide array of potential causes, including behavioral factors like self-directed hair pulling, as with baldy, social stress, pregnancy and lactation, hypersensitivity dermatitis, and atopic skin disease, some of which can unquestionably be ruled out. There are 3 possible relationships between stress and hair loss that have been proposed in the human literature, but only 2 are considered applicable to non-human primates. The first one is stress being a primary causal factor, where an acute or chronic stressor propels hair follicles into their telogen phase. The second one points to hair loss due to a pre-existing disorder, such as autoimmune disease, endocrine imbalance, or nutrient deficiency. Being ostracized. He lingers on the fringes of the troop, but it's only a matter of time before he is forced to sever himself from the only family he's ever known. Lucie belongs to a high-ranking family within the troop. She is the matriarch's aunt's granddaughter, thereby placing her firmly within the upper echelons of their society. On my visits, I do not find her particularly prone to being bullied by her higher-ranking peers. Unlike more skittish individuals like Mateo or Dawson, Lucie does not appear to be a direct target of aggression from her own family or the wider troop. Lucie's complete hair loss must be understood against the backdrop of the social and environmental upheaval that has reshaped Monkey Hill. The condition itself is suspected to be autoimmune in nature, a T-cell-mediated attack on the hair follicles. Autoimmune diseases are often triggered or exacerbated by environmental and physiological stressors. It is a plausible possibility that Lucie has a genetic predisposition to autoimmune follicular destruction. Perhaps we can look back at the timeline. Lucie began to show significant hair loss around the time the clan's stability began to deteriorate. It suggests that Lucie's alopecia was not simply a random occurrence. Ever since the feeding ban was enforced, the harmony of Monkey Hill began to unravel. What had once been a predictable rhythm, the regular provisioning, the familiar faces, and the established territories started to fracture. As the regular goodies became more and more occasional, the megatroops that had long dominated the political landscape began to fragment. Large, cohesive clans splintered into smaller, more vulnerable groups, each struggling to carve out a place in an increasingly uncertain world. The old order had fallen. The once unchallenged dominance of Skullhead's troop had given way. There used to be a clan that other troops would retreat from at the mere sight of them, but after the drastic shift, their presence no longer commanded the same respect. Their territory shrank, and the others easily displaced them. Boss's troop was bolder and growing. And Lucy's troop, a weaker clan that would never have dared to challenge them in the old days, had been able to drive them away. The tables had turned. The same troop that used to scatter at the sight of Skullhead's clan was now doing the chasing. A small group of Skullhead's troop couldn't catch up. Feeling hesitant but helpless, Maya took the lead. Then a wave of panicking individuals dashed across the road and reunited with the main group. Lowena's troop was also on the other end, blocking their exit. Skullhead's troop could only lurk in the indiscernible places. They were forced to retreat to the high ground, pushed to the margins of their old territory. For now, they could only linger up in the trees. The chronic stress Lucie underwent was less of a personal victimization, as typically experienced by low-ranking individuals, but the erosion of a social structure that once guaranteed her security and resources. She may be genetically predisposed to autoimmune conditions. Deducing from the coincidence of her hair loss and her fragmented natal troop being constantly displaced by rival troops, it leaves us with the two possibilities intertwined. The upheaval may have acted as an environmental trigger. Her underlying disorder, potentially autoimmune in nature, was expressed or intensified during a period of prolonged social instability. Their hair coat serves as a pivotal barrier between the animal and its environment. It protects against abrasion, regulates temperature, and serves as a first line of defense. When that barrier is compromised, the skin becomes the first point of contact with every surface she touches, and is therefore susceptible to trauma, abrasion, and secondary infection. The concrete ground, rough forest floor, and uneven terrain mean that every moment of locomotion exposes her sensitive skin, making abrasions and scabs inevitable. Despite the changes, Lucie is still a young girl capable of fun and frolic. She chases her cousin across the branches, quick and determined. But Beth escapes. She isn't in the mood to play today. Little Lucie decided that she doesn't need a playmate to enjoy herself. Lucie is such a vivacious young girl. When she wants something, she goes after it without hesitation. Her condition may have stripped her of her beautiful dark coat, but it did not, in any way, affect her vibrant spirit.
係咪
倒㗎啦？
係啊，係啊，一倒就要行㗎啦，因為太危險啦。一倒低即刻行，你要幫佢閂門。
照咯。
唔食。
Her grandmother Sarah, her aunts Mia and Gemini, give her warmth and love through their language of touch. Her cousins provide the gleeful company of peers who do not treat her differently. Her uncles act as protectors of this family. They watch from the sidelines, and their presence alone is enough. This family is her fortress.
他说我们都是人科的，我们和猴子都是人科。
Without her fur, Lucie looks much smaller than her peers. Her tiny frame is more fragile than the fully furred yearlings around her. Out of all her daughters, Grace resembles Sarah the most. She radiates the same elegance as her mother. Specific foods were given to Lucie in hopes of improving her condition through diet and nutritional optimization. Pumpkin seeds, blueberries, kiwi, oranges, and bananas were offered. But obviously, diet is no effective cure for her alopecia. They may nourish her skin, support gut health, and reduce inflammation, but diet alone cannot turn off an autoimmune attack on her hair follicles.
멍멍.好啊。
Completely bereft of her thick layer of fur that shielded her from the elements, Lucie's bare skin is left vulnerable to every shift in temperature. But Lucie seems unbothered. She moves through the forest with the same bold curiosity that has always defined her. Belle is always here to interrupt me from filming, and I can never resist the urge to interact with her. Lucie enjoys her time with Mom. She is her mother's little shadow. Their mother and daughter bond is unbreakable. In April, I noticed a change in Lucie's frame. Her abdomen appeared visibly distended, a rounded protrusion that stood out against her otherwise slim limbs. The swelling lasted for about a month before it slowly began to subside. The distension resolved on its own, without any intervention. It may have been caused by gas accumulation in the digestive tract, or a passing digestive imbalance that her body eventually overcame. Fast forward to May 2026, Grace gave birth to Lucie's little sister. The regular feeders who had stopped feeding for a period of time had returned, coming more consistently, roughly twice a week. Gradually, Skullhead's troop began to rise again. It was a slow return to the old order that had once been taken for granted, a recalibration of a hierarchy that had been disrupted for months. The shift is crystal clear. They began to reclaim spots that they would have avoided months ago, the open grounds and the territory that had dominated. Boss's troop could no longer drive them away. The confidence that emboldened them during Skullhead's decline began to waver. And this was when Lucie's hair began to slowly grow back. Tentative strands of short hair appeared first, and they later spread across her bare skin. Perhaps it was the reduction in stress, the return of stability, or simply time that had initiated the change. Lucie is going to be an amazing sister. Even when Grace has another newborn daughter demanding most of her attention, she still carries Lucie around on top.
其實要俾低佢哋㗎啦，嗰啲好唔好啊？一紮俾晒佢哋啦，如果唔係，佢哋走㗎啦，跟住。喂，你剩翻一個 BB 啫。喂喂喂！As Lucie moves among her fully furred peers, the contrast is no longer as stark as it once was. Her hair is growing back, bit by bit.
Lucie's family takes good care of her. Mum Grace is a steady anchor who will always be there to provide. She still offers a warm shelter for her daughter. She doesn't push her away, nor does she hastily force her toward independence before she is ready. She holds her like she always has, as if she had made a promise long ago. Grace's newborn demands her warmth, her milk, and her constant vigilance. Lucie has learned to step back. She doesn't need to be carried all the time. Sometimes she climbs a little higher and finds a spot of her own, giving her mother space. The causes of Lucie's alopecia remain uncertain without diagnostic testing like skin cytology, bacterial or fungal culture. It would therefore be impossible to ascertain the nature and the cause of her condition. There are a considerable number of plausible explanations for Lucie's hair loss. Autoimmune alopecia universalis, a T-cell-mediated attack on the hair follicles, would require a biopsy to confirm. Inflammatory skin diseases, nutritional deficiencies, and endocrine disorders are all plausible, but each would require specific tests to rule in or out. Fungal infections are only likely if the condition is contagious among individuals in close contact. The fact that Lucie's family shows no signs of similar hair loss makes this cause improbable. Stress and telogen effluvium are also considerations. Chronic cortisol elevation can dysregulate immune function and has been associated with hair loss in both human and non-human primates. Without proper veterinary examinations, all of this remains purely conjectural. Lucie follows Mum to seek shade from the scorching heat. Lucie's eyes have always been the most expressive part of her. Lucie's story isn't over. She has endured more than a young girl should have to, but through it all, she never lost her spirit. And now, slowly, her fur is growing back, pale and fine strands spreading across her skin that has been bare for so long. The future remains uncertain, but we have witnessed improvement. Lucie is still here, resilient as ever, surrounded by the love of her family.